night is the Rangers Journal night.
Good evening and welcome to your Thursday night edition of the Rangers Journal podcast. Tonight's show is going to be a Q&A, and with me I've got the dream team, or the dream and the nightmare as some might call them. Scotty, how you doing, mate?
Aye, not bad, not bad. This is the Idiot Club brought to you by Dave, who is the only adult with the team tonight.
That's stretching it a bit, mate. Mitch, how's things?
Good, mate. No cut anyone's breaks today, so but again, the day's still young, so just see how we go.
Still time.
Scotty's
Still
all
time.
looking good.
Good. Right, so Doug's kicked us off, folks. Nice, easy question, I guess, to start with. So we'll go around each year. Having a merit night. What's your thoughts on the draw? Scotty, I'll come to you first, mate.
See, to be honest with you, Dave, not to get his off on a bad start, right? But I am not confident about Russell Martin's football in Europe anyway. So whether it was Servette, I think we would have scraped past. Bran, I wasn't confident about because of it between 10 and 15 games into their season. Panathinaikos, I'm just going to say it. I think if I'm being brutally honest with you, we'll get to the whole John Suter saga later. But
well, me and Mitch have already done that in the group chat. Mitch, what's your thoughts on the draw, mate? Were you happy enough? No concerned?
I'll be honest, comes to the Champions League, mate, there's no such thing as a free dinner. You know that way, like, any team that we were going to play, you know, if we got Brand, you've got there are a few games into their season, probably a bit fitter, a bit sharper. Panathinaikos, they've got some decent quality about them. You know, nobody's going to dispute that. And then, who else was the other opportunity there again? Whoever else it was as well. You go, every team that's in the qualifiers right now are there by right, and they've earned the right to be there. And I think, don't get me wrong, even with the squad as it is just now, I would still imagine that we've got enough in the tank to beat them.
It's a bold claim. Mitch.
Seriously.
Well, mate, genuinely, like, this Panathinaikos team aren't, like, the way some fans have been so over dramatic about this Panathinaikos team, like they're making out as if it's peak Barca that we're playing. Like, it's not. They're a quality outfit with a decent, couple of sets of wingers in there, but ultimately they've not done much in Europe itself for a while now at a substantial level. They're a solid team, and I do think genuinely, hand on heart, that we've got enough, even as is, to take them over two legs.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with that, mate. I think we'll struggle, especially with the fact Journey's now left. You mentioned they've a couple of decent wingers. I don't think we've any first-team wingers, basically, apart from maybe Cortez, depending how he goes. But obviously, he's had a bit of a torrid time of it. One of the things that we have got tonight, in fact, it's the only slide we've got, was kindly prepared by Doug before we went live. You can see here the kind of routing. So, Scott, you're no confident in that qualifying round for the Champions League. So if we were to lose, then we drop into the third qualifying round of the Europa League. Would you feel a bit more confident there, or even if we were to drop down to the Conference League?
Let me caveat that a wee bit, right? Because I'm getting a bit of stick in the comments for my negativity. You know what? Now, we've not done any in the transfer market yet, right? We're currently going into this game with John Suter's potentially going to be out. We're looking at starting centre backs like Ben Davies, Robin Proper, Leon King. Who's going to play right wing? Ross McCausland. Centre mids, Diamande and Raskin should be fine. Left wing Cortez should be alright if he's fit, etc. Left back Jeff Day, fine. Up front, Dessers if he's here, I would imagine starts. Now, all that's fine, but there's gaps. And then you've got Butland with Botty's feet. Now, that's the bit that scares me, is Butland with Botty's feet. And then you're getting the Botty guys like Ben Davies, who is good with the Botty's feet. Now, I don't know anything about Panathinaikos, but I would imagine all Greek teams tend to have a big physical striker. Him and Proper having to get a muscle between the two of them. Neither's Leon King. So that's the bit that worries me is the defence. It's the central of defence. So we need I'll feel better if we get players in that are attuned to Martin's style of play and he gets them in for Monday, because in order to start playing this way, we need to give the team the best chance, which is on the grass, on the training pitch. And in order to do that, we need to get them in as early as possible. And it's not as if we've no time to prepare for this. We've had loads of time, loads of stuff going on in the background. Now, if we drop into Europa League, I think we play the unseeded teams. So I think that's Shakhtar Donetsk, Braga, or another team. That's 3 top quality teams too. And then the conference round we play an unseeded team. So I don't know. I don't know which way it's going to look. It's just because there's no the only signing that's come in is Lyle Cameron so far, and I'm a wee bit like our pal Carol about Rangers has just said that that's the other team. I'm just a wee bit like we need to start getting bodies in the door. We really, really need to start getting bodies in the door to start getting us optimistic about things, because it's a bit of a slow start. I'm aware the transfer window is only open a couple of days, etc., etc., but other teams have done business. Do you know what I mean? So I don't.
I think for me, one of the key things you touched on it there, Scotty, is Martin plays a particular style of football. And I understand, I mean, there was a comment pointing out that, you know, the team that was here was just in a quarter final not that long ago. True. But that was a very different way of playing to how a Martin team plays. Now, can the players that we've got here, do you think they can all adapt to that, Mitch? Or do you think that that's going to maybe leave some gaps that would worry you a little bit?
I'm genuinely not worried. Like, I don't know if it's blind faith, optimism, and too much caffeine. Like, but I think when it comes to the Champions League side of stuff, I think if we're all straight up, looking down a barrel at, looking down the barrel here, Champions League is probably not the level that we are at right now. But I reckon that over the next 18 months or over the next season, we get there. So I think realistically, there's a weird thing of there's a weight of no expectation on the team when it comes to, and I think what I mean by that is with the Champions League qualifying round, we know that the safety net of the Europa League's there, and we know that realistically this team's got proven calibre at that level. So going through a couple of qualifying rounds and stuff, we know that we can do that, and we know that this team can do it comfortably. We'll probably have a couple of arse-strangly moments along the way, because that is what this team does to us. But weirdly, I think with that weight of no expectation on the team when it comes to the Panathinaikos game, I think weirdly brings out the best and the better players in the team. I think as well though, I don't think everybody's kind of bent out of shape about the way that Russell Martin has historically played at Swansea, MK Dons, when he was down at Southampton. He's also learned lessons from his time at Southampton last year, where he got his backside felt a couple of times at that elite level. And I think for me, the big caveat would be of what has he learned as a manager from that? Where it can't always be sexy, stunning football. Sometimes you're going to have to just get in the trenches a wee bit, get your elbows out and do the dirty stuff. It might not be pretty to watch, it might not be sexy, it might not get me to take my top off on a live stream, but
Thank God for that.
I know, well, don't worry, Scotty, I'll put nipple tape on.
See this team last season playing the style of play it was playing last season. This beats Panathinaikos, no problem. This team playing the ball out from the back, these players trying to play football, gives me the absolute fear at Champions League level.
But it's okay, because Dessers will be away, yeah?
Aye. But
Those players are still getting warm, Dave.
Butland can't kick the ball 35 year forward, so how's he going to kick the ball 5 year forward?
Yeah, we called that out on the breakdown show that we did on Martin and his kind of style. Butland does not feel like a fit for that style. Let me ask you another question then, lads. I'll come to you first, Scotty. Is it a disaster if we were to hit that final box and be eliminated from Europe this season? Or is there maybe a school of thought that actually being able to fully focus on the league might be good?
I think you need some form of group football, whether that's Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League. You need some form of group football for the revenue, for the fans, for Russell Martin, for his job. For speaking sake, I think Rangers need some form of football in Europe this season. In terms of domestically, I think I've seen other people say it on other pods. I think Rangers are going to become better on Rangers Saturdays than Rangers Thursdays. I think while European forms, it's not going to fall off a cliff, but it's going to be a lot worse than what it's historically over the past 5 years. We've been good in Europe, but awful domestically. I think that's going to change, to be honest. I think domestically this style of play can go two ways. It can either be quite challenging for a couple of months and then be really good, or I think we could potentially come out and blow teams away. I think it could really be really, really good in the SPFL. But I think teams in Europe will pick you apart, to be brutally honest with you, Dave. So I think as long as we get something, probably Europa League, I'll be happy, but depends who you get. If you get Shakhtar Donetsk or Braga, with that style of play, with them players, you're up against it.
Aye, agreed. Just tired, Mitch.
So, wee bit, mate. It's been a long day.
Just checking on you, mate. Just checking on you. So,
No,
what's
but I
your
think-
thoughts? Would you be okay with being out, or are you like Scotty? We need something.
No, I'm not okay with being out because I think the standards at the club, it's not acceptable to have no European football, let alone before the summer finishes, let alone being parked out by Christmas. I think the pedigree of this team, over the last few seasons, we've had deep European runs. The revenue that generates, even at the Europa League levels, big revenue. The shopping window for the players is much bigger as well. We're seeing that with the likes of the interest in Raskin, Agamani, and amongst the others there within the team as well. So I think the squad needs the European football to make that transfer model work as well. Because let's be honest, no one at an elite level is watching the SPFL through, unless somebody's got a shotgun to the back of their head. If you're given a choice between watching a Ross County game, for example, versus going to go and watch, Dortmund play at the same kick-off on a Sunday, nobody with any form of sanity, not even I, would do that. So I think as a team, and as a club, it's expected, and I think that's part of those standards that cannot be allowed to let slip at the club. And that's not me saying, I'll forego a bit of short-term pain over long-term gain. I think even from a coefficient standpoint, it requires both teams performing at some sort of level in European football to sort the mess out that realistically our neighbours and the rest of the SPFL have got us into. That's a whole separate issue on its own. But, again, it requires us taking that step forward and being active in Europe, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, if you were to drop to the Conference League, would that still be acceptable for you, assuming obviously that there was a strong run in it, or does it have to be Europa or higher?
Europa or higher for me.
What about you, Scotty?
You've got into Conference, you need to win it.
Nah.
It's easy as that. You need to
No
go
pressure then.
You need to go and win it. No, I don't know. I think it's Forest that's in it this season, isn't it?
I think
Forest
so.
is in it.
I think so.
We could beat Forest. Who would naturally probably be the favourites for it, let's be honest. But Europa League's a bare minimum for me as well. But that playoff round or third qualifying round, that gives me the fear with this team. It's hard because, one, we've not got any signings in, and two, we've not seen a pre-season friendly right yet, so we don't know how we shape up how we look. I'm just going by my gut feeling just now. My gut feeling is I'm not feeling really good about things at the minute.
Okay. Just before we go any further, just a quick shout out to the pod sponsors. Off to the match I go. As always, The QR code's in the bottom left of your screen there, and you can find them on Facebook or online. Use the code Journal10 at checkout, and you'll receive a 10% discount. It is a Q&A, folks, so get your questions into the comments, and I'll get these pair of Muppets answering them as much as I can. Sorry, Muppet and Scotty. Mitch,
Yes, David.
if you so say we went into the Europa League, is there an expectation that you go beyond the groups in the first season? Because I'm conscious what Scotty's saying. It is coming
The
very
Europa
quickly.
League?
Yep.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah, because we've done it. Because we've done it consistently now for a number of seasons. I think it's like a benchmark is laid down there. Even with last season's group of ragtag group of muffins that we had in there, like we still managed to find a way to get to the quarters, and we still managed to find a way to get past some decent quality opposition on the way. And I think I get that there's a bit of, not so much trepidation, but a little bit of worry and anticipation for likes of Scotty, for example, just now with the lack of signings through the door. But I think what we're seeing now is there's a lot more links, and it seems to be a lot more solid type links. It is also worth noting half the players that have been playing international football, for example, at the start of this summer, most of them are still in their jollies, which will be why we've obviously not had some of them through the door yet, which would be, I think, next week. I would like to see at least one body in the door next week, not in a Rafael Fernandez, sense to placate us and shut us up for a week, but to actually give us somebody in the door that says
someone that's going to chip in a bit,
somebody that all three of us can categorically say, this player will improve the team right now. And that for me, I think the starting block for that would be a centre back right now.
Yeah, hard to disagree, and we'll come on to that in a bit more in a little bit. Scotty, just firstly for you, mate, on the Panathinaikos game, do you think the temperature and fitness could be a problem for the away game, especially again coming so early in that season?
Well, you'll have most of your pre-season games done in it away. You've got, that's where I suppose the home leg being first is the advantage. That's down to management. If your team aren't fit enough and prepared to get into a hot climate, then that's on Russell Martin as far as I'm concerned, Dave.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And Mitch, there's another fairly chunky one here.
You calling me, Dave?
I was meaning the comment for once. So basically, summing it up, the back four. Mark's saying, "No good enough, not going to take us further." Are you in agreement with that? Do you think we need a whole new back four plus keeper?
I think to say that all of them, need taken out the back of the stable and one in the back of the head, I think that's probably a wee bit, over dramatic. Because we've got players within that back line, and not to hark on, but the likes of Tav, for example, he's been in the trenches with us for 10 years. He's got experience in Europe. He's guided us through tougher games than this. Especially in the run to, finals and stuff. He's guided us there. I think that what we have right now available in the back line, does it make me feel good and warm and fuzzy on the inside? Absolutely not. But I think the likes of I think the left back starting berth for me, I think this season, if Ridvan was to stay, and again it's an if, I think it has to be on a Ridvan has to be fit, and if he's missed X amount of games by January, it's got to be see you later, son. Because at that point, that's 3-4 different managers at that point he's played under. So you can't then say it's the way the manager trains us or the way the manager, does this or this with us. But for me, I would have Yefty starting in Europe ahead of, I'd have Ridvan ahead of Yefty in my European games. Domestically, let Yefty actually serve the apprenticeship he was supposed to serve last year, but we had to run him into the ground. And then Robbie Fraser's there for that in-between period. I think that makes me feel a bit better, but it's the middle that we need more help in, which is, if Suter's great, if Suter's fit, great, cool. We know what he does. He is the siege defender at the back. He's the headbanger that's going to, he's going to headbutt your granny, to make sure that ball doesn't go in the net. What he needs is a competent player beside him to be the linchpin, to go and be the playmaking centre back. I think, that's going to link up the play between there and the midfield, and somebody that I don't need them to be all thriller, no filler. I need them to have, stick the nut in the ball, stick a tackle in, but their job is let Suter do what Suter does, because he'll do the last. That he'll be your last man all day long. That's fine, provided he's fit.
And
But
it's not a friendly, huh?
exactly. If it's no time to play for Scotland or that. But I think, in all seriousness, though, I do think the right back berth would require somebody in, and that isn't a dig at Tav, but over the course of next season, Tav is going to be what, 34, 33 or 34.
I think he hits 34 as the season goes, does he not?
So
Doug's in the comments. Come on, Doug, tell us.
Doug, you've probably got his birth lines underneath your desk.
You got like any player that played more minutes than Jeff Day last season?
Fantastic, Doug. Like, I was feeling nice and warm until you said that. But no, genuinely, I think though, taking into account father time, he's not a young, fit, athletic fullback now. Do I want to see James Tavernier running at a full tilt, let's say a Bayern Munich in the Champions League? Absolutely not, because I would like to sleep some point before Christmas. Like, what I would like to see is he's there to support somebody. And the idea of Nathan Patterson coming in from Everton, no to burst anyone's balloon, it's not happening, because but apparently Moyes really likes him. The Everton fans are right behind him. And I think the understanding is, the noises coming from down south are he's quite firmly in the plans for next year. So unless they go out there and go and sign some absolutely worldy, you'd assume that he's either going to be the understudy or the starting. So, but I think we require a bit of surgery at the back.
A bit that's gentle. All right, let's go into the Suter saga then. Obviously, as we now know, played those 2 friendlies for Scotland and now needs a hernia op, which he's apparently needed since back Easter time. RFC's in the comments asking, should he be binned? So, should he be binned? Scotty, I'll come to you on this first. And also, just get your overall thoughts on the fact that it has kind of dragged out till now before he's gone for that up.
First of all, right, this is came from Keith Jackson at a Daily Record, so let's just caveat it. Right, this might just be a load of pish, right? Before we go any further, might just be a load of pish. But if it's true, then oh boy, John Suter's made a major mistake in his Rangers career, and Rangers have made a major mistake for John Suter's career, because he should have been told under no means necessary, if he needs an operation, is he going to play for Scotland against Iceland and Liechtenstein? It's not even as if it's 2 glamour friendlies he went and played. It's 2 diddy teams, which to get beat off one of them. I don't see the point in international football at all. It's pointless, especially at the best of times when it comes to, I understand big competitions, World Cups, Euros and qualifiers and that, but even the Nations League, I suppose, but friendlies against Liechtenstein and...
Mitch has said no.
I'm like, Nations League? Absolutely not.
Against Liechtenstein and Iceland? No. No. Even Scotland fans would say no. Like, come on. If it's true, then you could even get back to Barry Ferguson on this and said why Dr. Waller should be getting a bit of stick. Why did he not send him for his op? He's the doctor who's in charge of the medical department. This falls on the people that were in charge of John Suter's care at the time when this was diagnosed. There should have been a care plan, I suppose, a care plan put in place for when he was diagnosed with this. A time given, a date given for the operation. He goes, gets the op, so he is fit back for these qualifiers. if this is true, it shows a complete lack of respect towards the club, towards the supporters, a complete lack of respect for him as a professional. I'm sorry, but playing for Scotland in a couple of daddy friendlies doesn't make you look good. It makes you look like a complete idiot, if you ask me. And if I keep caveating it, if it's true, then it's tatty bye for me. I'll drive him off at the airport myself. It's disgusting behaviour.
Yeah, and I mean, I said pretty much the same in the group chat. You could almost understand it if it's the Euros or the World Cup, but for two friendlies, it's just bizarre for me. Mitch, what's your thoughts on it, mate?
I think going to following on Scotty's point about Keith Jackson. Keith Jackson needs to be incredibly careful because essentially he's pointing a finger of medical negligence at the doctors at the club. To say there is ways and means, obviously, of working around a hernia if it's not that bad to begin with. But now, what I mean by that is for a few weeks you can kind of mill through and get on with it of, like there's going to be points in the game, you're going to give it 60%, you're not going to be doing, breaking your neck up and down the park. But equally, there comes a physical break point that a doctor is not going to let a contracted professional athlete get to a point where he endangers himself and risks his health. I'm sure they might have detected it at Easter time, and it might have just been a wee one that sometimes with hernias they go away on their own. Scotty's probably more qualified on that front than either you or I to know a bit more about that, but I know that in some cases hernias can just dip out after a few weeks, after no treatment, just generally taking it a bit easier. But if we got towards, let's say, with 3 games to go at the end of the season, and it became quite apparent that the surgery was needed, the coaching staff at the team and the medical staff at the team should have just simply said, look, NCL is going to play the last 3 games of the season. You're going to go and get the op, get yourself tidied up, enjoy an early summer holiday, and we'll see you back in the 23rd of June. But again, I think we've seen this with transfer links, we've seen this with managerial links and everything else. The press have shown time and time again over the course of the last 18 months, they know nothing about what's going on inside the house at the moment. And I think Keith Jackson is genuinely got to be very, very careful because he is accusing a doctor essentially of medical negligence at that point of, not treating a player properly, because you're not going to hang about for, 2.5 months to go and get a hernia surgery that you need. I get muddling through hoping it goes away, but should sort of went to the Scotland games if he knew he needed it? Absolutely not. But equally, if he was absolutely needing the hernia surgery, the Scottish doctors at the national team level wouldn't have cleared him to play. Because he has to go through... But Steve Clark isn't a doctor. Like, every player is medically checked out when they get to the national team.
Yeah.
So he's then basically saying the doctors at the national team and the Rangers medical staff are going to let him go and play through a hernia that he needs an op on for a couple of daft friendlies. I just, no way in a logical standpoint is any manager or any medical professional going to let a footballer do that.
Is that the same Scotland that had Ryan Jack running 20k plus when he had a knee injury?
Yeah, let's be honest, Ryan Jack was also made of Cocoa Pops, so, that's a different issue.
There's that.
You know what I mean? Ryan Jack managed to injure himself making eggs, you know what I mean? So I'm not really too concerned about Ryan Jack anymore.
Aye. If you're liking what you hear, folks, please do like and subscribe to the channel. And if you turn your notifications on, you'll be warned when we're coming online. Mitch, I think you're going to have a view on this next question, so I'm going to stick with you for it, mate.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Here you go. Look at the face. No.
I'm trying to find how to dignify that with a sensible response that doesn't involve me, threatening to take out somebody's car.
First if you didn't, mate.
In all fairness, no. Balogun's not coming back. Let's be sensible, let's just be sensible for a minute. It's not happening. Dream's over. Third time round isn't happening.
You're right now, but I'll take him. Right now,
Indeed,
I'll take him.
indeed, I will not. That
Injury, I'm not going with Leon King and Robin Propper going into Champions League fucking qualifiers.
it's all right, mate. You're going to go and play.
I
We're
am.
I
reeling
love
you
how
out
he
there.
just came back just to say aye, and then off he goes again.
I know. If you're going away for a minute, away you go. Like, but no, Balogun's not coming back in for it. Like, you know, Balogun's got whatever, you know, whatever he's got lined up. He's probably going to have. He might go and join. You never know. He might go and join Connor for a wee sunshine holiday for a couple of years, or he might go down. He might go down the Lunny route there and go off to Turkey. You know, or he might just. He might also physically look himself in the mirror and say, "Can I do this again for another 12 months?" When you look at the injuries that he's had over the course of this season, and some of them are ones that 3-4 years ago Leon Balogun would not have hurt himself putting in a tackle, you know, and laid himself out for 3 or 4 games. Like, at some point you've got to look in the mirror and say it's over. But no, sensibly, it's not happening.
No, as much as I love Leon Balogun, yeah, I can't see it now. I'm starting to wonder: does Scott 05 need a ban? That's just terrorism, mate. No, don't mention Ben Davies, please.
Is Dave froze?
Next sensible question. Sensible, yeah. Nico Raskin and Hamza Egeman, if we don't qualify for Europe, well, we don't qualify for the Champions League, but I'll expand it a bit wider as well and just say overall European football. Do we think both of them are going if that happens?
Scotty, on you go.
Right.
Scotty,
You're on mute, mate.
That's, I suppose me being on mute's working just as well as your Wi-Fi in the last couple of minutes.
The blind leading the blind leading
Aye.
the blind.
That's it.
It's going to be a Q&A with just Mitch.
Feels that way. Like my dad.
Hamza Egeman and Nico Raskin. Depends on the offers. Genuinely just depends on the offers. And it depends how we're going to shape up. Depends. Russell Martin might like a completely different centre forward to what Hamza Egeman can offer. Might like one with a bit of pace. He might like a central midfielder. Can Nico Raskin play the pivot in the 6? Probably, aye. He also showed under Barry, I thought Nico Raskin was a success story under Barry where he really, really developed. Showed they had a lot more going forward than they'd let on previously. Could he be one of the 8s getting forward? Probably, aye. It really, really depends. One of them's definitely leaving, I would say. If Nico Raskin hasn't signed the contract, now is peak time for him to move on. 100%. I would say keep Hamza for another season because if he's a good year, he bangs any goals, we're doubling his value for next season. Yeah. 100%.
I think that makes sense, and I think, like you say, Raskin either needs to sign a long-term contract or move on this window. It has to be one or the other for me. Otherwise...
If Stevie Raskin, he signs a contract and then you sell him next summer when he's 25.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not under any illusion that the contract keeps him here, but it protects his value, is my worry. Otherwise, we're heading into that situation a bit like Kent and Morelos, where they're just running down their contracts and leaving for nothing. It's millions lost. Mitch, question for you, pal. Is this true?
Is what true? Shankland?
Aye.
John Adams has just turned into Jerry Adams with that question. That's absolute wild nonsense. No. I would assume that Shankland, all the chat with Shankland seems to be that he's going down south. And it seems to be a shootout between Wigan and West Brom, I think. You know, and if we're being honest there,
maybe even stay Hearts.
I think realistically, he's going to, him and his agent, if they're really smart about it, he knows probably at a championship level down south, he's probably not quite got the quality to go and displace somebody as a starting striker in the top half team. So you go, I tell you what, here's what they're offering me, here's what you're offering me. Can we meet somewhere in the middle? And it might not be on a raw wage per week. It might be that they offer them an incentivised contract with goals scored or whatever caveats are in players' contracts nowadays. You know what I mean? They might get a bonus for tying your shoelaces the right way or something. But genuinely, the Shankland boat. If I take one more question about Shankland, I'm going to hit somebody with a football boot because it's over. It's done. It was 18 months ago. Can we all just build a bridge and go over it?
Sky, do you want to ask him a question, mate? Right. Okay, this is where I'm going to show my ignorance a bit because I tend to mainly watch Rangers games. I don't watch much EPL, so I'm hoping you lads can answer this question. But would this be a good deal? So Paul's saying apparently Everton are looking at a swap deal, Wegerman, and swapping him for Beto.
No.
No. Okay.
Beto was playing out his skin under David Moyes towards the end of last season. And also we've got an Everton contact coming on tomorrow night to speak about Dan Purdy and Mr. Thelwell. So save your questions for him tomorrow night in terms of Nathan Patterson and Beto and all that. But Beto's not coming to Rangers and neither's Nathan Patterson in my opinion.
Right.
Beto was actually linked with Leeds, I think, at the beginning of the summer.
Okay. Sky, is Shankland better than Dessers?
In my opinion, it's hard. It's a hard
Think
one.
about your breaks, mate.
The oneys are going to do my breaks can whoever I say. 2 years ago, Shankland was a better player. Last season, Dessers was a better player. Are they the same?
You're getting splinters there, Scotty.
Are they the same? No, I'm answering it honestly. Are they the same type of player? Shankland's better, probably outside the box in terms of linked up play. You don't get played as a 10 otherwise.
Did you watch him playing as a 10, mate? It was brutal.
What's that?
I said watching Shankland playing as a 10 last year was brutal.
Mitch, he can control a football to begin with. He can pass a ball. Dessers can't do that.
I can.
No, he can't. He can't pass it. Why are you even talking about Shankland anyway? He thinks deep in the water.
It's in the comments. It's in the comments.
Just throw some Santa socks at somebody at this rate.
Aye, throw some Santa socks. Right. What does success look like for the coming season then? I'm waiting on some questions in the comments. If the viewers can help me out whilst I get you guys just to gibber a bit. What does success look like this season, Scotty?
Win the league. Got to win the league. We need to back Russell Martin. We need to throw money at him. I would have thought signing guys like Josh Mulligan would have made more sense than bringing in Mr. Aarons for Bournemouth to me, because he's a bit more durable in terms of his injury record and things like that. I'm not saying Aarons is a great player, an absolutely brilliant player, but didn't really kick a ball much in the last kind of half of last season. Are we really going back down this route where all we've been linked to is really championship players? Think about it. Poku, Cody, Harry Darwin, all good players, I would imagine. But are they really? Poku's probably better than, but is Harry Darwin any better than John Souttar? I don't think so. No, Mitch, I don't think he is. If I'm being honest, I really, really don't.
I think weirdly they would complement each other well.
Well, he's away to Norwich anyway, so it's pointless talking about it. But
all I'm
saying is there's signings you can make that make sense. Josh Mulligan makes sense, and then there's signings you go and spend money on, and there's loans that you bring in to complement. There's your Cherny loans that you do and all that type of stuff. But the thing that's given me the fear the most, Dave, is that Russell Martin apparently wants to give all these players a chance. Everybody's got a clean slate.
I know.
How many clean slates does Ben Davies, Ravi Matondo, Kieran Dowell, how many clean slates do all these guys need? The
I
field,
was really hopeful with a pair, especially Dowell and Davies. I thought that Birmingham were going to take him, put an end to this kind of nonsense. But yeah, hearing him come in and say that, and I mean, for me, like you say, we've tried it multiple times, multiple managers. The end result has always been the same. Mitch, I'll just come back to you on that question before we move on. What does success look like for you this season?
Silverware. Don't care how the silverware comes in, and I don't really necessarily care what the silverware is. I don't care if it's a cup double and getting, but running the league close. Like, I'm not sitting here, with the league being done in February as it was this year. Like, genuinely at that point, I'm throwing socks everywhere. Like, especially at Scotty. Like, but no, I think silverware is a bare minimum standard. The cupboards have been too bare now. Again, last season, even under Clement, had it not been for honking refereeing decisions, there would have been silverware in the cabinet. By proxy, when you look at that with the penalty decision and you look at the record on pens, that pen was probably going in. But again, that's a conversation that we've already had a million times over.
Aye.
And I'm for everyone's mental health for not having it again.
No, I think best not. Best not.
I think silverware for me is a minimum expectation, and I think seeing the foundations of what the team looks like going forward, not just this season, but what does the team look for, like when we have an idea of when we get to this point next year, where we go, well, Russell Martin's type of play domestically is this, Russell Martin's type of play in Europe is this, and the big games we do this. So for these occasions, we could safely say we need maybe 4 players rather than needing a full 11. But I think a cup trophy, probably a double, would be nice. But again, at least one piece of silverware and running the league much closer. And I think a half decent European run at the Europa League would be would be a nice wee cherry on top. But aye, that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, cool. I think I'd echo that. I think there has to be a piece of silverware, and the league cannot be done before the split. For God's sake, that's just wild. Just to say, fully endorse this CGM 55. Frustration of mine for a long time is we have shown far too much respect to said Diddy teams. People will call it arrogant, but for me, with the wage budget, the transfer budget that we have, it's not an unreasonable expectation at all. Just lastly, then, before we finish up, lads, it's one from Doug, blowing his own trumpet a wee bit after his brilliant interview last night. If you haven't caught that, head along to the channel and it's there on YouTube. What, after that interview, did you kind of feel excited about Poku as a signing, Scotty? Do you think that he could be a difference maker for us?
Oh, definitely, aye. It's one I'm looking forward to if it happens. Need to caveat that. Yeah. I'll go back to it's about smart signings in the right places, and he's a smart signing in the right place. He's young, he's talented. He's almost a like for Czerny in terms of he's a left-footed right winger. I'm not saying he's going to provide the same numbers as Czerny, but there's a decent chance of that in this team with this style of play. He's one I would be really, really looking forward to joining, Dave.
Cool. And Mitch, same to yourself. Are you excited to kind of see Poku come in, assuming that he does, as Scotty said?
I was buzzing last year when we were linked to him last year as well. But I genuinely really, really like Poku, and his form after the injury in the first half of the season last year, his form has been sensational. He's shown that, again, obviously I know it's League One, so the barometer of players that you're playing against and stuff, but again, you can only play what's in front of you. But the boy's shown enough from me anyway that he's a player that I'm quite excited by.
Scotty's off. Yeah, had enough.
He's got one trying to poke you out, I think. Like, No, but I do genuinely think he's a player that I would be quite excited. That was the quickest Barry White I've ever seen, Scotty.
Right.
But he's a cracking, tidy player, and apparently, again, you have to take it with a pinch of salt because it has come from Barry Fry, the Peterborough owner.
Yeah.
At one point, he had like 40 teams sniffing about him, and I think wherever or whoever he winds up at, if it's us, I would be over the moon. But I think there's definitely a special player on the horizon with him.
Yeah, and I think you made a point about the injury as well. All too often we see players come back and they suffer post-injury. So the fact that he has come back and probably say doing better than ever is really, really positive for me. So I think we'll finish up there, lads. We'll let Scotty go away and do whatever he ditched us for. For those of you that have watched, thanks very much for listening. It's been a pleasure as always. Scotty, you want to say cheerio?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dave. Thanks for hosting last minute. My night was a wee bit mental on the lead up to the pod, so it's appreciated. If you're watching over on Facebook, smash a like button for me. If you're on any other platform, smash a like, a follow, or whatever it is. Please head on over to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscribe button. We'll be back tomorrow night at, I think it's
quarter to 10.
Quarter to 10
time. We'll be back on with an Everton lad who's coming on to speak to us about Dan Purdy and Mr. Thelwell. It's very much a Q&A. He'll be live with us for half an hour, so make sure you're tuning in for it. It's going to be a good one. Cheers, Dave.
Absolutely. And again, hit the notification button. You will get reminded before that stream starts. Mitch, thanks for coming on, bud.
Always a pleasure, mate. Scotty, mind wash your hands.
Thanks for listening, everyone. And remember, every night's a Rangers Journal night.